Welcome to the new episode. In this part, we will write the script to display the game questions. Open the new game scene. In the hierarchy window, create an empty game object and name it Game Manager. Now, in the scripts folder, create a new script named Game Manager. This script will implement the core logic of the game. Open the script in Visual Studio and delete the default Unity-generated functions. This line lets us use Unity's UI system, like buttons, texts, and images. This line makes the class or variable visible and editable in Unity's inspector. Create a class called databank, which will store the questions for our game. Create a string called answers, which will store the answer for each question. And create another string array called forAnswer, which will store the four options for each question. Finally, create a string called question, which will store the question asked to the player. This line creates an array called databank to store multiple databank objects. Save the script and return to the Unity environment. Assign the Game Manager script to the Game Manager game object in the inspector. As you can see, our databank array has been added. In the box on the right, you can enter the number of questions for your game. I have prepared 8 questions, so I'll enter 8, but you can enter as many as you want. In the forAnswer section, since our game has 4 options, I'll enter 4 and press Enter to create 4 options. Now, to avoid repeating this for the other questions, I'll temporarily enter 1 in the number of questions box to keep only the first question. Then, I'll enter 8 again so that the remaining questions are created with the same settings as the first one. Now, let's move on to entering the questions. Enter the question text in the question field. And enter the different options in the answers fields in order. Enter the correct answer in the answers field as well. As you can see, our first question is created, and I'll do the same for the rest of the questions. Follow along with me. After entering the questions, go back to the script. Now, we want to specify how many buttons we will have for the options. This line creates an array called answer buttons to hold multiple button objects from the UI. Save the script and go back to Unity. Now, the button array has been added. Enter 4 so that 4 option buttons are created. After they are created, assign the corresponding button to each option in order. This line creates a text variable called answers to store the answer. This line lets us use Text Mesh Pro, a system for better-looking text in Unity. This line creates a variable called showQuestions to display text on the screen using Text Mesh Pro. Save the script and go back to Unity. For the Show Question section, assign the text object we created to it. Now, let's move on to creating the game timer script. This line creates a variable called timer amount to show an image that can act as a visual timer. This line creates a private timer variable starting at 10 seconds, and serialize field lets us edit it in Unity's inspector. Save the script and go back to Unity. Now, assign the timer image we created to the timer amount field in the inspector. Now, let's make the timer image start decreasing. Go to the script and define the update function. This line decreases the timer over time, making it count down each frame. This line updates the timer image, showing how much time is left visually. Save the script and go back to Unity. Run the game, and as you can see, the timer image starts decreasing and reaches 0 in 10 seconds. This code checks if the timer reaches 0 and then prints time ended in the console. Here, we can specify that when the timer ends, for example, the game should move to the next question or deduct points from the player. Save the script and go back to Unity. Run the game and wait for the timer to reach 0. As you can see, the time ended message is displayed in the console window. This line creates a variable called index questions to keep track of the current question number. Create a new function to check the questions. Now, let's define the start function. This line picks a random number between 0 and the total number of questions to choose a random question. Now, use debug log to display the random number in the console. Save the script and return to the Unity environment. As you can see, each time the game runs, a random number is printed in the console. Now, go back to the Game Manager script and remove the debug log code since it doesn't need to run. Also, move the random number code into the check question function. With this line of code, the randomly selected question from the databank will be displayed in the Show Question text field. Now, to run the check question function, call it inside the start function so it executes once at the beginning of the game. Save the script and go back to Unity. Now, run the game. And as you can see, each time the game runs, a different question is displayed in the Show Question field. Now, let's move on to creating the code to display the different options on the answer buttons. Open the script and, inside the check question function, write the code to display the option texts on the buttons. This line sets the text of the first answer button to the first answer of the selected question. Now, to display the other answers, simply duplicate this code 4 times using Ctrl+D and just change the numbers to match the buttons and answers. Start with 0, since array indexing begins at 0. Now, save the script and return to Unity. Wait for the script to compile, then run the game. As you can see, the answers are displayed on the buttons according to the questions. Now, let's move on to writing the code to check whether the player has pressed the correct answer or not. This is a function called clickButtons that runs whenever an answer button is clicked. It takes one number called check, which tells the function which button was pressed. Inside the function, we use this number to get the corresponding answer from our databank for the current question. Then, it saves that answer into the answers variable, so the game knows which answer the player chose. Save the script and return to Unity. Select all 4 buttons, click the plus icon, and drag the Game Manager game object into the empty field. Select the button click function that we created in the Game Manager script. Assign an ID number to each button. A equals 0, B equals 1, C equals 2, and D equals 3. Then run the game. And as you can see, when we select the correct answer, it is displayed in the Answers field. Now, let's write the check answer function so that when the correct answer is clicked, a win message is displayed, and when a wrong button is clicked, a lose message is shown. With these few simple lines, we set a condition. If the answers field matches the question answers field, display a win message. Otherwise, print lose. And to make the check answer function run, we call it when a button is clicked. Now save the game and return to Unity. Run the game, and as you can see, if we select the correct answer, a win message is printed in the console, and if we choose a wrong answer, a lose message is printed. Now, let's make it so that when the player selects the correct answer, the game moves on to the next question. Remove both debug.log lines, then call the check question function again inside the if condition in the check answer function. Also, reset the timer to 10 so that whenever the question changes, the time returns to its initial value. Save the script and return to Unity. Run the game, and as you can see, when we click the correct answer, the question changes and the timer starts decreasing again from the beginning. Alright, this episode is finished. In the next episode, we'll work on changing the colors of the answer buttons. If you enjoyed the tutorial so far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the videos. And if you have any issues or questions, feel free to ask them in the comments.